Hello everyone! Today we'll be going over the first 4 races in my endurance racing series, as well as some other minor things pertaining to the series as a whole. For now I want to go over the races themselves, my performance in those races, and what I could do better and what I think works great for them. The first 4 races in the endurance racing series are Trial Mountain, Hockenheimring, Interlagos, and Kyalami. Let's start off by talking about the races in Gran Turismo. First, let's talk about Trial Mountain. Let me just start by saying how much I love Trial Mountain. It's a staple in Gran Turismo, and I knew I had to start this series with this track. It's gone through a bit of a change in layout from its previous iterations, but to me at least, it still has that same charm it had back when I first raced it back in Gran Turismo 3. It's a 4.5 kilometer or 3.38 mile track with 15 turns, and judging by the map in the game, it's based roughly in Yosemite National Park, which is where I got the thumbnail for the replay video of the race. The 4 hours at Trial Mountain took 122 laps to complete, and I just narrowly won. I started this series driving the Honda or Acura NSX, and interestingly enough, the car that started the race was also an NSX. Within the first lap, however, the lead cars that would stay in the lead for the majority of the race began making their way to first, starting with the Mercedes AMG taking first in the tunnel straight, followed by the Dodge Viper. By lap 2, the Dodge Viper made it to first, and would be my main rival for much of the race. Meanwhile, I was down in 6th, making my way up the grid. The Viper wouldn't lose first until lap 17 when it had to pit for fuel. I wouldn't see first place until lap 19. This brings me to the bot difficulty settings in Gran Turismo 7. Choosing between beginner, intermediate, and professional is like choosing the intensity for how quickly the bots catch up to you once you gain first place. Beginner was never really an option for me, so my only real options were intermediate or professional. I chose professional for the Trial Mountain race, not realizing I could never really hold first place unless I hold out on the track long enough to wait for the bots to pit. I've said before that once I entered first with a 20-second lead, they'd be 5 seconds behind me by the next lap. This happened a lot in the race as it went on. I was in first a total of 17 to 18 laps out of 122, so yeah, never doing professional bots again. Overall though, I think the race went well. Outside of a bit of collision, which caused me to lose the lead during lap 108, I never really had any issues, and at the end of the race the Viper had to pit for fuel, giving me first on the last lap, ending the race with me winning. A perfect way to end the race, I think. Interlagos is a different story. Interlagos has been around since the 1940s, so it was definitely going to be in this series if I had the option to race it. Interlagos is a 4.3 kilometer or 2.7 mile track with 15 turns located in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I honestly feel like Interlagos was a better race than Trial Mountain, despite its repetitiveness. I'll be honest though, before Gran Turismo, I never really knew it existed. I'd never raced on it until I got this game, so it felt really new, and it was a lot of fun to race on. Unlike with Trial Mountain, I raced against intermediate bots this time, and I think they work a lot better than professional bots. They still do the whole speed up once you're in first thing, but at least it's not as egregious as professional. When I started the race, I went with soft compound tires, again like I did at Trial Mountain, but much like before, I realized hard compound tires are just better for these endurance races. One thing I've also learned, thanks to both Interlagos and Trial Mountain, is if I run lean fuel mixtures, then I also get less tire wear and I conserve fuel in the process, allowing me to stay on the track for longer than the bots. I'll be using that to my advantage in later races. At the beginning of the race, I took first within the first lap, but after that the gap between me and second place never got larger than about 4 seconds, I think. Once I pitted around lap 8, I dropped down to 12th. However, it wouldn't take me long to catch up to the new frontrunners. My main competitors, at least in the beginning, were a Lamborghini Huracan and a Ford GT. The Lamborghini disappeared about an hour before the race ended, and I eventually lapped it. The Ford GT, however, was my main rival by the end of the race, hounding me until the very end, much like the Dodge Viper in Trial Mountain. However, in the last hour or so, I realized that my tires would only last me every 22 laps before I needed new ones, and I'd have to pit just before the last few laps. So I came up with a foolproof strategy. I would stay behind the Ford GT in front of me until it would pit, then pit with it. Not only will those tires last until the end of the race, but so will the fuel. I finished the race and ended up lapping every car, including the Ford GT. Overall, Interlagos was an amazing race, and I hope most of the future races moving forward will be just as good. Now we get to the Forza Motorsport races, starting with the Hockenheimring. Hockenheimring first opened back in 1932 and has gone through many changes over almost a century. In its current form, it has been the scene of some great racing. Unfortunately, my race wasn't among them. I'll be honest, this might be the worst race of the series. Not because of the track, but because of Forza's difficulty system. If it weren't for that, this might not have been a bad race. Forza's difficulty system is a bit of a downer to say the least. Unlike Gran Turismo's difficulty system, Forza's difficulty settings just determine how fast the bots will be, and that's it. It's quite a letdown, because once you gain first place, that's pretty much it after that. And Hockenheimring was egregiously bad for it. At first I tried running with level 6 Drivatar difficulty, but after 25 laps I realized I wasn't gaining on the leaders at all, no matter what I did. I restarted the race and set the difficulty down to 4, but soon realized I was way too far ahead of the bots to make a difference. By the end of the race, I had lapped everyone by about 3 laps or more, and for that reason the Hockenheim race is a stain on the series. But remember, I don't hate the track. I'm just disappointed in the Forza developers for making a terrible difficulty system. Finally, we have the Kyalami race. Kyalami opened in 1961, and has gone through at least 5 layout changes since then. The current track layout is 4.5 kilometers, or 2.6 miles long, with 16 turns. This race went somewhat better than Hockenheimring, but not as good as I'd like it to be. Even with the difficulty set to 5, I still lapped everyone by at least 1 lap. There's just not much to say about the race itself. It was fine, and I enjoyed it for the most part. But it wasn't anything like Trial Mountain or Interlagos. It was mediocre at best, in my opinion. But if you did watch the livestream of the race and enjoyed it, that's good enough for me. So those were the first 4 races of the series, but I'm not done yet. See, I've been thinking on how I can make this series more interesting. I've mentioned in one of my streams that I plan on getting a racing wheel sometime during this series, and I still intend to do that. In about 2 to 3 weeks, actually. Once I get a racing wheel, the potential of what I can do increases exponentially. My plan is to increase the races that I can do, and to do that I need more games with different tracks. Well, I already have rFactor 2, Assetto Corsa, and Race Room, and soon ACC as well. I'm expanding my reach of what tracks I can do, and what games I'll be playing them in. Basically, I have a trickle-down system. Gran Turismo 7 comes first, and whatever games can't be raced in Gran Turismo, I'll race in ACC. Whatever I can't race in ACC, I'll race in rFactor 2. Whatever I can't race in rFactor, I'll race in Forza. Whatever I can't race in Forza, I'll race in Assetto Corsa, and whatever I can't race in Assetto Corsa, I'll race in Race Room. This system is based on a few things. One being whether or not it has day-night cycle and dynamic weather, and which games I prefer racing on. Anyways, that's all I've got for this one. My next stream will be February 1st, and I'll be racing on the Red Bull Ring. So if you'd like to see that race live, make sure to follow my Twitch, and I'll see you all there.